Hi. So welcome to video number 2. This is dealing with plugins and subsets, loading your plugins into Unify, creating subsets after we've loaded plugins into Unify to make finding effects much easier than it is by default. I want to point out real quickly that what's really cool with Unify is after the video number 1 that you watched, you should be licensed and Unify is ready to go. You don't need to scan your plugins. For any of these patches in this list to work. Right? Using 4 different plugins. They're all ready to go. That's because if you go down here to the settings, you don't have to do this, but check this out. There's a data folder. You can change the location of the data folder if you want to move it to an external hard drive or something. But if we open this up, this is a folder which contains 3 folders. The libraries folder, which is where the Unify standard library is installed, and the presets, which is where the various presets inside of Unify. We'll explore those more in this video and other videos that are coming up. And then here are your effects that I've written to the developers, or Shane has written to the developers of these plugins. They have given their blessing for us to include these. These are free plugins you can find on the internet. But when you're including them into something like this, we need to make sure that they're really, really okay. And they've all said, go for it. Sounds really kind of like an interesting experiment. So all of these various plugins, BlueArp is a MIDI effect. DX is a DX emulator for FM synthesis. Digits is Casio's phase distortion type of synthesis. Klangfalter is convolution reverb. Loudmax is like an L1 loudness limiter maximizer. MDA are all these really cool effects. Some work a little weird. We're going to make them better with updates that are becoming. OBXD is an Oberheim emulating type of a synthesizer that's just really wonderful in spirit. PG8X is a Roland JX8P type of a synthesizer. The PlugInScanner, this is something Shane wrote in the last week that has changed everything. Because in the past, when scanning plugins, you would scan, it would crash. You'd have to reload, scan the plugins again, and it would continue where it left off. Well, we thought it would be important to try to make something better than that. Even when I use Logic Pro X, it crashes multiple times when scanning the audio units. So we wanted to make a better way of doing so, and we've done so. This list is the list of effects that are included in that VST folder that you saw right there that I just showed you. But it doesn't include any of the plugins on your computer. But I just want to make it really clear. This is so fun that these all work without scanning your folders, without having to add any plugins. You have over 350 patches of really cool stuff, using in many cases lots and lots of different types of synthesis, lots of different plugins. Some of these get into where they're so huge, and you got to go to the scroll view, and you can see we have something like 9 different layers, 3 auxiliary buses, going crazy for this one. So it's crazy what you can do out of the box, but it gets even more insane once you do a couple of steps. So let's do them. And I can explain a couple of things while it is working, because one cool thing with our scanner is it works in the background. So I'm going to go over here. As you can see from this list, you can remove, I already cleared the list, so it's nothing but the plugins that are inside that VST folder. Even if you remove all VST plugins, even if you clear the list, these will remain because these are inside that folder. And that's core to Unify surviving. It can't be, I didn't want it where you had to install a whole bunch of stuff before it would even work, right? It'd just be too weird. So you install, and all of these are ready to go, boom. And you're playing, right? So let's init, go over here. Now, there's 3 different flavors of plugins. VST, VST3, and on the Mac, you have VST3. I'm gonna scan VST And on the Mac, there's only 2 real locations that VST effects show up. So I'm going to say scan. Now, this is the exciting part. This was just done in the last 4 or 5 days. Shane rewrote our scanner so that it can be, you can move it over here. You can close this and, I have a couple of products that are not authorized. So we had a crash right there. It will keep scanning. If it crashes, it doesn't take down Unify. It doesn't take down Logic Pro. So it's really nice. I'm gonna move it back here in the corner. But what's cool with this is I can go back to here. I can be playing, doing anything I want while it's scanning for new plugins in the background. Because again, we don't need your plugins to work. I'm going to show you this concept because this is what's really fun, and this is where the power of Unify takes off. I'm going to go over here. I want to add another layer, and I could say add an empty layer, but instead I'm going to go over here. Let's go to DX to a keyboard bank. And just like that, I've added a DX. I could go down here. I could go to the cart and change patches. Did a little searching on the internet, you can find literally thousands and thousands of patches to go through very quickly that work for the DX7, work for DX. It's very easy to set that up. I have set up all of these banks. So if you go over here to DX, each one of these is a bank of 32 patches. So I could say plucked. Now, because I said plus, it's now added another layer. It's very easy to add layers in Unify. I'm gonna hold down Option. Let's get rid of that middle layer so we just have the plucked bank. And maybe I want that. Now the velocity of the DX tends to get a little bit too hot. So I'm gonna go over here and bring this down and make it more expressive. So it's really easy to add layers to these patches. That's why so many of these, I've made them on purpose, just a single layer. It's very easy to go, let's add another layer, go to the Guru sampler, go to a nice big bright pad sound. Turn it down. It's too bright, so I could go over here to the filter. Right? It's so much fun. And I'm doing this while it's scanning plugins in the background. So I can kind of fill you in on this really important part of Unify. Because in a minute, instead of being Guru Sampler that we're adding, we could add contact sample libraries. We could add Omnisphere. We could add Serum. It's really opening up new doors. So as you can see, we're almost done. The window was actually in the middle, which means it's crashed once or twice in the scanning of all the plugins. Because if it crashes, it will relocate itself back here in the middle of the screen. So you know that it's crashed. Now, VST plugins will give you an error message. Don't let this concern you too much. A lot of effects in VST format come with both a 64-bit and a 32-bit version. So a lot of these are the 32-bit that you're seeing that Unified can't load because Macs don't load 32-bit plugins anymore. So this list, it's not anything to worry about for the most part. So you can just say, okay. Now when you go to the list here and you scroll, you can see that you've got a nice list. Now, I'm gonna also scan the VST3 folder. So I say, okay, scan. Now on PCs, you might have VST or VST3 in multiple locations beyond these. So we have the tools set up for you to point to multiple VST folders wherever you have them stored. Make sure you set that up. Hit scan, it's working in the background. I can go back to playing with Unify. I can go back to the other patches. Anything will work. It's not, none of the plugins that it's scanning are needed to play what's inside of Unify. So you can okay, So I'll pause it. See you in a minute. Okay, so we have scanned VST3 and VST2 plugins, and you can confirm this by going to the little, so this is the layer. This is where you have your parameters for a plugin, for an instrument. Click right here, go to all instruments. Let's say we go to Arturia, and you'll see that there's now VST3 and VST versions of all the plugins. It's a little messy to do this. We will hopefully have an update come out fairly soon after 1.0 comes out, where I want to have a preferences. So you'd be able to choose what you want to see, and it will not make a database showing the other plugin format unless it's missing. For example, Roland, their plugins in the Roland Cloud only show up as VST3 plugins. These are VST3 plugins, they're not VST2. So except for Concerto, it shows up as VST and VST3. So we'll work on a better system in the future for this, but for 1.0, please be patient with us. We're still new to this. This is our first plugin, so we've got lots of room to grow, right? So what's cool with this is we now have the ability to call up any of these patches, like I showed you when we were scanning them, but instead of calling up just, I could now say add, go to instruments, and instead of going to these presets, say add an empty instrument layer. And this way I can go and choose any plugin on my computer from this list. Let's say we go to Serum. Boom, hello Serum. Let's go to a plugin guru library like Camoji. Let's go to a Plux. There's a whole bunch of Plux here that are really nice. So here's without it. Here's without this. So it's nice how things complement. Now there's some nice velocity. So I want Serum to be more expressive, so I could just go down here and make this. You can adjust to your taste how you want it to play on your keyboard. And when you're done, you hit save. You can go to the user patches, save the patch. GS Serum Pluck, right? So we go save new, it saves, I get a pop-up confirmation to save it, and there it is. So I now have in the Unify standard library, it doesn't show up, but if I go to the user patches, here it is. Right? So it's all just so cool. I'm so happy. Now, there's ways we can make accessing these lists better. This is just a mess to see all of the different companies. There's so many companies. I remember back when it was just Native Instruments, or actually before that was Rhizomatic with Absinthe, and just that small handful of, go to your audio effects. You know, how do you find what reverbs you own from this list, right? So we decided to come up with a cool system called SubSets. And you get there by clicking the little lines like a notepad, right? And here you can see you have MIDI effects, audio effects, and instrument effects. And you can go through this list, choose which of these you want to be from this list, and add them into a subset, okay? Now we haven't made any subsets yet, so we could just say add a preset, select it, rename, and let's call all instruments. Okay? Hit return. And then I'm going to go over here. There's this really weird thing where it's showing this. Let's just keep going. Just go like that. All right, so as you can see from this list, there's VST instrument and VST effects. So let's do this. Let's go VST instrument. And that will give us a list of all just instruments, not VST3 instruments because it needed a 3. So I say select all and it's just the VST instruments. There are some MIDI effects in this list because MIDI effects and instruments are not separated. There's no way to define them. So you need to go down the list and decide which ones you own are, like, if we go to blue ARP right here, let's say select all and then hold down Command or Alt and say click to deselect. We need to deselect Cream because that's another MIDI effect. Cthulhu is a MIDI effect. We also have HY, sequence collection, and numerology down here. And make sure you click where it says My Instrument so that the subset My Instrument shows up, and say Add Selected and save. And then I want to go to Audio Effects and I'm going to add a preset. And let's select this and rename this to be All Audio Effects. Okay. So when clicked, it shows up over here. Now instead of VST Instrument, go VST EFFECT. Those are all our VST effects. Now if I put a 3 right here, you would notice that it now goes to showing VST3 effects. So that will be the way to define what it's going to show you in this list. Remember cross-platform compatibility. If that's important, you want to use VST effects. VST3 effects, audio units are not cross-platform. There's challenges. And we might be able to fix some of those for VST3 effects. I don't think we'll ever fix them for audio units because that's Mac only. So if you want to do something to send to someone on a PC to play, make sure that you use VST as the plugin format that you use, okay? So we got VST listed. Let's add selected and save. So now when I come over here, let's init. When I go to the instrument list, instead of seeing everything like this, I now have this nice alphabetical list. So I can just go straight to what I want to load. I don't have to remember the name of the company that's nested in. There's not all these things nested in the Arturia folder. Now it's everything shown by what it is, right? Very nice. Audio effects. Instead of this, we now have an alphabetical list for all of our audio effects. Much easier to find things, but it can be made far better. So let's go back to the subsets, and on instruments, let's say we want to add a folder, rename the folder by company. Okay, and let's go to the by company. Let's add preset. You could say company, you could name this whatever you wanted. Some of these will be included with Unify. Why not, right? So when you go to the plugin list, it will be populated with some of these. But I want to make sure that you know how to navigate these, add to the lists, subtract from the list. It's very straightforward. Rename the preset. Let's call this one Korg, because they're my favorite company, because I've worked with them since 1988. Let's rename the next one. Arturia is nice just because there's so many all over the place. Rename another one also for Roland for the cloud. If you use the Roland cloud, if you don't, it won't be of much help to you. So let's go to Korg and say Korg, if I spell right. So you say select all, and then I just want VST, so I'm going to first deselect the VST3s that are here. There's not that many. And I'm also going to deselect effects. I don't need Universal Audio's delay. I don't need other effects that you see here this is from Gadget 2. Let's see, Gadget, the instrument. Effect. I think that's everything. So we just say add selected and save. Now, if I'm looking over here, if I saw an effect or I saw something I didn't want to have in this list, say you get this list and you didn't want some of these, you just select the ones that you want and say remove selected and hit save, and you've now updated that subset. Roland, go over here and say Roland and say select all. We want just the VST version of these. We don't need the VST3, although we do need for these, right? Because these are only available as VST3. So where there's more than one format, we can choose, but otherwise we'll use the VST3. We don't need the Universal Audio effects, so let's not select those. Roland hasn't released much in the terms of effects yet. I wouldn't doubt if someday they will. Add, save, Arturia, same thing. And we could say select all. And here we have VST and VST freeze. I'm going to go through and select pretty much every other one to deselect the VST freeze and the effects. So deselect all the effects here. This is just adding the VST version. VST, and we only want the reverb. No, this is the insert effects. We don't want the effect. All right, so make sure that I have, oh, here's the reverb play that was just released. Let's say we don't have that effect and we don't want VST freeze. So VST freeze. Oh, yeah, look here we have VST freeze. Okay, so now we only have VST freeze and effects with profit. Make sure you have a double check time before. Remember, you can modify it after the fact. Say add selected, go down the list. If you see effect, it's very easy to deselect it. If you see a VST3, you can say remove selected and it's gone. Okay, hit save. And now when we go to our instrument list, and by company, we now have all of Arturia's plugins, all of Korg's instruments from Gadget, which are mini, as well as from their various, their collection, which has gotten really great lately. They just added the Korg Triton, which is one of the synthesizers I worked on many years ago. Roland has the D50 and everything else now in this folder, so I can quickly just... Cool. So, it's really nice to do that. It makes it so much faster to navigate. So that's great for instruments. Let's do it now for audio effects. This is even more important. Again, these will be made for you in Unify. I just want to make sure you know how to do these. So you don't have to make these. They will be there to start with. So let's say refresh, and now we can say add a folder, and let's name this effect type. And then let's add presets here, add, and let's say reverb. Number 2, let's rename this delays. We'll get there. And let's rename this last one EQ. Okay. There will also be compressors and other ones in this list when you get Unify. But check this out. You just say delay. And a whole bunch of delays show up. So you can just say select them all. I'm going to deselect the VST3s because I only want VST in this list. Precision delay. I don't know. So we can say add selected. Now I happen to have other delays like crystallizer. That doesn't even say delay in it. So select that and add echo. You can say there's all sorts of stuff here, right? So add those. So the main point of this being that you might have additional delays or reverbs beyond what I have in this list. So make sure you go through this process to go over, find what they are and say add selected and then save once you've clicked on what list you want. So EQ, select all, go down the list. I'm going to turn off VST3 effects just again. Right? VST. Okay, that looks good. Let's say add selected and save. You might have other names for equalizers, so make sure you check, add the ones that you want. Reverb. Well, I actually just go REV. That would add reverb and rev. So let's select all those and add. We could also say verb to add all these guys that are select all acorns. So that was there. Adaptive verb, that's new to add. D-reverb, I don't need that in the list. Piano verb, we'll just keep the VST version. Okay, so now we have this nice healthy list. Oh, we don't need this, so we'll say remove selected. We could say to remove selected for that. So yeah, if something creeps into the list, it's really easy to just remove them and then hit save. So at this point, check this out. This is where this is so nice. When you go to effect types and you say delays, here's all the delays that I have access to from all the different companies, from Arturia, from Valhalla, from Universal Audio. All of them are there, right? Same for EQ. There's all the EQ. For all the reverbs, they're all available. It's just so much easier to find everything that way. I think we'll stop right there. I think that gives you the idea of how this works. You can do things easily by companies. You can do by effect types. If something's not here, you can make your own subsets super easily for your favorites, your most used, or just to limit for a certain project, you can make your own subset. The effects can be in multiple subsets. You know, I've got the all effects, which shows all of these, but these delays, the delays are also found in here under delay, right? So they can be in multiple subsets. It's not like this moves them to anywhere or something. These are just pointing to the plugins. So that's how subsets work. That's how you get your plugins into Unify. So now you can call up any of the patches, enjoy it, and then go, I wonder what it would be like if I added boom to it, and then go have fun. Okay?